This video is to go over the procedures for establishing a furnace correction factor for your mix design that you would use during production of your mix. And we'll be following the VTM 102 test procedure.
And when we do that, we have to establish gradations on all of our aggregates and our wrap, and we need to know what the available asphalt content of the wrap is. So you would go to your stockpiles, get all of your material. You need to get all that done first. A blend sheet to determine where you want to set your job mix to do your oven calibration. This piece of equipment is used to split material to sample size. You place your material in here, you open it, it goes through, and half goes to this side, half goes to this side, and you reduce it down to the material size that you need. And when you're splitting wrap, you probably want to sample around 1,500 grams, and you want 4 samples. So when you get your material from the stockpile, you want to get enough material to get all this done. It says you should probably have a minimum of 80 pounds. I think it's probably a little light because you probably want to use the same material all the way through your job mix. And if you know what you got, you can use it all the way through and not have to go get more and recalculate. Better to have too much than not enough. After you split the material down to sample size, you want to put it in the oven, and I put it in at 230 degrees till it's at a constant mass. And this is a good dry sample of wrap. And I'm just going to weigh that up just to see what I have, and I've got 1,560 grams. So the next thing you do, we'll just set this to the side. Remember we had 1,560. We're going to put this on scale, and we're going to get a tare weight on this basket. And we're recorded. Record the tare weight of the basket is 3,008.8. After the weight of the basket's been recorded, we'll place the sample in the basket. We can do that right here or set it off to the side. Really doesn't make too much difference. We're going to put that right in here. Try to put about half of it in the bottom. Take a spatula and spread this out as neatly as you can, kind of thin. And try to keep it an inch or so away from the side, and that way if anything falls through, it'll go in the catch pan. This together. And I'm going to set this off. Make sure I've got a 0 on the scale.
Wait, let me clean that off.
And I do. Put this back on. My total weight is 4567.8. What we're going to do now is subtract the 3,008.8 from the 4567.8, so that equals 1,559 grams. That is the weight of our sample. So we're going to come over here to the asphalt furnace and wait is 15,1559. Enter that. And then we're going to go to a correction factor, and we're going to enter 0. So then we'll check what we've got, which is 1559, calibration factor, now it's 0. So now we're ready to burn this sample off. And you should always wear
face shield.
Long sleeves.
You want the face shield
or
glasses?
Glasses or face shield for protection from the heat. Always wear gloves. It's 538 degrees Celsius, and that is 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And as you recall, our total weight of our sample is 4567.8. And when we put that in here, this scale needs to read within 5 grams of that scale. If it isn't, it may be hitting the back or the sides or something. So you pick this up. Place this in the oven. Make sure it's not touching anything. Close the door. And our weight is 4568, which is what we started with, 4567.8, 4567.9. You hit the start button, and you wait till that burns off. And you're going to do that 4 times with a 0 as a correction factor, and at the end you're going to average all 4 of those asphalt contents and subtract 0.4, which is the standard for the state of Virginia for correction factor of RAP. And after that's burned off, you would do a wash gradation on that, just like you would any sample, which is ASHTO T30, and average the gradations of all 4 of those samples to put on your blend sheet to do your mix design calculation.
In order to batch our samples for our furnace correction factor, we would have already determined what our design asphalt content is. That would have been done with our gyratory pills and a 3-point, 4-point design, depending on how many points you're doing during your mix design. So we want to establish our furnace correction factor on our design asphalt content, so to put on our job mix formula to submit to the department. To do that, we're going to batch up samples that are representative of that job mix formula. And we're going to start here. We're going to do an SM 12.5 today, and I've got a sample weight on my 78. First, I put a pan on my scale and I tear it off to 0. Now I'm going to be weighing up my 78. It's got 11% in it, and I'm going to put 198 grams of 78s in this. All your pans that have your material in it, you want to make sure visually you look at these pans of material and see that they're not segregated. It's important they be very uniformly distributed in each pan. You want a flat bottom scoop. You want to take the scoop, go all the way to the bottom of the pan, scoop forward, and scoop up a scoop. And I want 198 grams. If you overrun, you have to remove a little bit. Okay. Put this back in my pan. Now I want to go to my next material, which is the number 8 material, and I'm going to put 360 grams of that material in. Again, flat bottom scoop, keep it flat on your pan, scoop forward, and I want to tear this off back to 0. And when I add this material to my pan, I don't want to put it on top of the existing material. In case, as you saw with the first material, I had to remove a little bit. I want to put it in another section of the pan for that purpose. 360 grams. I'm doing good today. There we are. Again, back in our original pan. Next material will be natural sand. I need 288 grams of that material. And here, when the finer the material is, it's really important to make sure that your material is not segregated. Take a visual check here. Again, tear my scale off, find a different portion of the pan. The weight of this one is 288 grams. Got it right that time. All right, my last virgin aggregate is going to be my washed sand. It's over here. Again, flat bottom scoop on the bottom of the pan. Tearing it off. It's 22%. It'll be 396 grams. 396. Okay. And the last virgin aggregate I'm going to add to this is my baghouse fines. The purpose of adding baghouse fines to your sample, you've probably heard this in previous videos, is to simulate what happens with your production when your material breaks down from the time it goes into the asphalt plant and it comes out the back of the asphalt plant. There's always going to be a little bit of breakdown. We are using 1% baghouse fines for this purpose to try to simulate it in our mix design process so our mix design will better duplicate what field production will be. You obtain baghouse fines from your baghouse. It's a fun project. I recommend sending new employees to do this. They always come back and have a story to tell. For this, 1%, I'm adding 18 grams. Tear my scale off. And 18 grams. Again, for this, it's very important to have it at a separate spot in your pan in case you put too much. It's hard to get this small material out. As I just did. Okay. Now that I've batched all my virgin aggregate, I want to check and make sure that my virgin aggregate weight is correct. To do that, I take a separate pan, put it on the scale, and I'll tear that off. I've already calculated that my virgin aggregate weight, which is what this does not have any wrap in it yet. The virgin aggregate weight only virgin aggregate, is 1,260 grams. All right, now a little paintbrush, here we go. I'm going to add this here. I actually have a weight of 1,261 grams. That's pretty good. Could have a tiny bit moisture in here, so I'm not going to take out 1 gram yet. I'm going to wait till my aggregate's hot. We'll check this virgin aggregate weight one more time before we mix. And like I said, it's possible there's a slight amount of moisture to only be off by 1 gram. So we're done batching the virgin aggregate. This aggregate will go into the oven to warm up to mix temperature. In addition to the virgin aggregate, we also need to get a sample of wrap. We're doing a wrap mix design. For this mix design, we're adding 30% wrap. Wrap must be kept in a separate pan because your virgin aggregate can be in there as long as you want, overnight, whatever, but the wrap should only be added 30 minutes prior to mixing, okay? So we have a different pan for our wrap. We're going to tear that off, and even though we explained earlier in this video that when you're obtaining your wrap samples to determine the asphalt content in your wrap, you need to split that down through the sample splitter, as Dickie showed you earlier. When it comes to the time that we're batching for our samples, we are allowed to batch the wrap versus splitting more wrap down, okay? So we can treat the wrap just as any virgin aggregate, all right? To do this, for my wrap, I need a total of 568 grams of wrap. Again, flat bottom scoop, flat on the bottom of the pan, scoop it up, and my weight's 568 grams. There we go. And as I just said, this wrap will be introduced to the virgin aggregate 30 minutes prior to our mixing.
So now that we have batched out our calibration, it's in the oven. I need to take a pan and do what they call a butter batch. And I'll show you that. I mixed up a batch, put it in here, stirred it up, and threw it away. Because I want to keep this some in there, because when you mix this up, you can't get everything back out, and that helps you with that. So what we're going to do is go back over here to the oven, and we know we're supposed to have 1,260 grams of virgin material. This is what we batched out just a minute ago. See how close we have to it. And we have got 1,260 grams. Nice and hot. All right. And now we're supposed to have 568 grams of wrap. And of that wrap, 540 grams of it is aggregate, and it has 28 grams of asphalt already in it. So our total weight of wrap should be 568. And that is what we've got. So now, this entire batch needs 101 grams of asphalt. And we know that we've already got 28 in there, so we need 73 grams. So we'll spread this out, mix it together a little bit, make a little divot. Zero our scales out. Asphalt. And when you're dealing with hot asphalt, you should always have safety glasses, long sleeves, and gloves. So I need 73 grams. I'll put this right in here till I get up to 73. Ooh, and I really did overshoot it. And so I'm going to have to take some out. Just kind of dab it out. There we go, 73 grams. Throw this away. And we're going to mix this up right here. And we want to get it pretty good and mixed, pretty good and coated. Reason being, when you put this in the oven, if it's mixed well, it'll burn properly. We used to do aggregate only oven calibrations, and the reason we went to doing it this way is because of temperature more than anything else. Your oven is set at 1,000 degrees, but when you burn a sample off with asphalt in it, it goes quite a bit higher than that. So once this is mixed up, I'm going to just set it right back over there in the oven for a minute while I get my basket prepared. We're all good here. And we're going to do exactly the same thing that we did a while ago. We're going to put this on the scale and get a weight of this basket. And I'm going to do something a little bit different this time than we did last time. But this is still the same basket. It weighs 3,008.5 is what I've got this time. So the weight of the baskets, 3,005, and it's leveled out there at 0.6. Okay? So now I'm going to tear the basket off, get a 0. And I do know what it weighs, but I'm going to get a 0. So let me put the asphalt back in the oven and get my sample out. And as you recall from before, our total weight of this sample is supposed to be 1,901 grams when I'm finished. And it should be real close to that, and all 4 of your burns should be the same. You have to do these these batches one at a time, by hand, and looking at the proficiency test, it has to be within 0.1% of your intended weight, and our intended weight is 1,901. So what I'm going to do is got the tear on that. I'm going to set this thing off. Get my sample mixed up pretty well. You don't want to lose a thing. And you want to put about half of it in the bottom. Okay, I can set this back in here. And keep it hot while I spread that out. And what you do is take this, you don't want anything to stick to your tools, just heat that up a little bit. Spread this out. And this is a 12-5 mix, so your minimum sample size on this is 1,500 grams. And you can go over by 5, so it can go up to 2,000 grams. And you kind of want to calibrate this thing somewhere in the middle, because you want to run your production samples close to what you do your oven calibration at. makes a whole lot more sense. There. Put the rest of it in here. Set this down. In order for me to come up with the 1901, I'll set this back here, just kind of on the back side of it, and put that right over there. And I've got 1,889 grams. So I've got to get a whole bunch of asphalt out of this pan. And off the spoon and whatever. So you just want to scrape this down real good. And now, if you look here, I've got 1901 on my scale, which is exactly what I'm supposed to have. So everything that's here goes in there. So 1901 is what I've got, and that needs to be within 0.1%, which would be less than 2 grams error. So once it's in there, I'm going to take it off, tear out my scale, weigh the whole thing, and it's just a check. It weighs 4910.2. I'm within half a gram, which is pretty normal. So now you know that that is 1901, and again, all 4 of your samples should weigh the same thing. You come over to your oven, put in your weight, 1901, enter. I'm going to check that. 1901, you want your calibration factor at 0. And again, you want to zero this out. And this needs to be within 5 grams of what we have there. So right now, this is 4910, because this thing basically works in there to the nearest whole gram, but it says 4910.2. And gloves and safety glasses. And it weighs 4910.231, whatever. It's 4910, it's well within 5 grams. So you hit the start button, and you'll get an answer. So you're going to burn off 4 samples with your intended asphalt content. You know what you put in there. We put 5.3 in it. And when it finishes cooking, it's going to have a larger number than that in there. So you subtract the intended asphalt content from what the ticket tells you, and you're going to come up with a number, be 0.02 or whatever, and you do that 4 times, and you average that, and that becomes your calibration factor. And you'll use that until you do another one. And this also calls for running a blank sample. And what a blank sample is you just batch out your aggregate. You have to burn off wrap, put that in there, and you would do a wash gradation on that, shake it down, and everything should be within your job mix range. And what I do, and it doesn't necessarily say to do this, the first thing I do when I do a mix design on my first day, I run my rices at my middle asphalt content, and I run my blank. Because when I run the blank, I can see that if it comes close to my batch weight or my batch sheet, blend sheet, that where my design is. And if it's not, I look to see where my mistake is and start over. There's no reason to go through an entire job mix, and this is the last thing that you do, and find out you've got an error. So I would advise anybody to run your blank first. This is burned off now. It gives you a signal. It says it's done. It's a stop button. Set your sample out. You wait for that to cool to room temperature. Then you do a gradation on it. You do a wash gradation. Cover this so you don't get burned. Okay, now you got that. And again, you would have 4 of these. And we know that we put 5.3% asphalt in that when we put it in there. And this says it has 5.52%. So if you take the 5.52 and subtract the 0.3, it gives you a 0.22, and that would be the correction factor for that first burn. And again, you would do that 4 times and average the 4. And 0.22 is a pretty normal correction factor for this mix. Now that this is burned off, it's been sitting here ample amount of time, it's cool. We need to take this out of the basket and do a wash grading on it. Be very careful with this. sure you got a 0 on your scale. You record the weight of your dry aggregate, which is 1795.2. Then you proceed to do a wash grading, run it through your Nestor sieves, come up with percent passing each sieve, and you do that 4 times. You average your gradations. You put that in your, you take those, you look at all 4 of these samples, you look at your blank that you've already run previously, and then you look at your blend sheet where you put all of your individual aggregates and wrap in, and look at that gradation. So now you've got 5 gradations to look at. You've got the 4 oven burns, a blank, and you've got the blend to look at. So you look at all that, and that's how you determine where you want to set your job mix gradation blend on your job mix. And after that, you of course run your plant, so everything goes, and if any adjustments need to be made, you try to make them during lot 1.